All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf, sorry, yeah,
Daf Yomi.
yeah, Daf Ayin, which we did most of the Daf. It was basically a bunch of Kimtim to Leimars, and it got to Teretz. So we got to the Mishnah yesterday.
Ayin. We're on Ayin. Oh,
Daf Ayin. I like Eileen.
Eileen. That wasn't her name.
So the Mishnah says, Mesav. We saw this a little bit yesterday. We discussed the beginning of this parak. Nar Marasa, right? Nar Marasa was she basically, her vows are revoked by the combination of her father and her husband. Now, Mesa, remember she said Labal. If the father dies, so we saw a reference this earlier. The father dies. Then which is about, then his kayach, the kayach from there doesn't go to basically to the husband, and therefore, right, he would not be able to go ahead and revoke any vows.
We're still talking about the Nar.
I said Namarasa, yes, Namarasa. Meis Habal. However, if her husband dies, then Nisrogna Rishus La'ab. Then any power that the husband had over her in terms of his ability to go ahead and revoke her vows with the combination of the father, that would all go to the father, and now the father can go ahead and revoke it on his own. And regarding this matter, right, the strength of the father's position is stronger than that of the husband. However, when it comes to another matter, right? They're actually the husband is in a better position than the father. Right? That the husband can go ahead and revoke his wife's vows after she becomes a bogeres. Right? Once she even the age of 12 and a half, that the husband can do it. He's married to her and she's older, he can still revoke her vows. Nevertheless, the father cannot. The father is not able to go ahead and revoke once a girl turns 12 and a half. She's in her, even, despite the fact that she's never married, she's in her father's house. He no longer has control to go ahead and revoke her vows. Fine. That was the Mishnah.
And does she have anything to say in it? The Bulgaris, her husband. When we're talking about, forget about the
yes.
father.
If she makes a vow, her husband can go ahead
and they're both her husband and her.
When she's a Bulgaris, it's just her husband. Not her father anymore.
Okay, but how about her?
She makes the vow. So she's the one who makes the vow, the nether, and then the question is, can the husband revoke it or not? Now, Zok the Gemara, 4 lines from the bottom, and item and out. So my time of the Dhamma. So what's the reason for the first one, that when the father dies, that does not do Rishus Labal? Because the pasuk says Damakra Benurel Beisavia. Benurel, when she's a Nara, even if her father dies, right? She's Benurel, nevertheless, Beisavia. She's considered being in her father's house. So even after the father dies, she's still Beisavia. She's still in her father's in his house, basically part of his possession. Doesn't go completely transfer over 100% to her arus, and therefore the arus, her husband, does not go ahead and inherit the power of hafar. However, the husband dies, then it goes back to the father. So we know that from Samar Rabbah. The Yamar Kra, the pasuk says, "V'im hayu siya leish dreleha." So the pasuk says over there. This is the parak we've been discussing. This is pasuk Zayin over there, which is right after the first 3 pasuk we said Dal Hay and Vav are referring to psukim when she was in her father's house, and then it says Im hayusiya, the double lashon of hayusiya, right? Sounds like 2 marriages. Basically, a girl who was mureses, right? She got betrothed twice, right? Im hayusiya, is to one man, and then for whatever reason it ended, i.e., either the guy died or he divorced her, and then she gets basically betrothed again, kedushin again. So what's the comparison between the two? Why the double lashon? So makish, right? Turn the page, top of the page. Makish kait mehavya shniya lekait mehavya v'shayna. We compare, right, her status prior to her second time getting engaged. We'll call it engaged, betrothed, right? Compared to the first time. Just like before, the first time she became a namarasa, she was in her father's house, right? She was a nara in her father's house. So the husband, the father is able to go ahead and revoke her vows by himself. So too, before her second betrothal, right? Then the father can go ahead and revoke the vows. Meaning, she went ahead, she got engaged to a man. The man died, and now once again the father is able to revoke her vows by himself. So what do you see over there when the husband dies or gets divorced? All of the power goes back to the father, and the father can revoke it by himself. Very good. Now, so the Gemara says maybe over there it's only referring to Nadarim because it's different. We see in the Mishnah that in the Psukim that there's a different status for Nadarim that was made prior, right, to her engagement to the ones that she made while she was married. Maybe that's only referring to Nadarim that basically came before the Arus. Now, those things, which is basically any neder that's her first, Erisin, right? Any neder before that, obviously, is something Shaloni or Larus was before him. But maybe ones that were said while she was engaged, maybe then the father is not able to go ahead and revoke the vows by himself. Made for out. So Gemara says, even if this just we need if we're talking about the Darab that were never said while she was yet engaged yet for the first time. But that we know from the pasuk of Rabbi Savia, like we saw earlier, right? She's always in her father's house, even after her father dies. She's still in her father's house. So we know that the father's in the house. We know he has the koach to go ahead and be Mayfair Nadarim, right? Of that they came before she was ever engaged. That obviously the father can do. So what's the chiddush of the other pasuk to teach us, right? The double haviyah to teach us that even any nadarim that were made while she was in the rusa and the husband dies or divorces her, right? So then the father has the koach to go ahead and be made for those nadarim on his own. And the bazeh, we said in this matter, the father is better positioned than the husband. However, the husband is better positioned because the husband can revoke vows while she's a Bulgaris, and the father is not able to. So the Frakti Gemara say, "Hey, Chidami, what's the case?" If we're talking about a case when she was Mikudeshes, while she was, let's say, she turned 12, she got engaged, right? And then she became older. Let's see. Misa, Maitzia, where's the base, right? Misa, Maitzia, Meshus Av. Ubagras, Maitzia, Meshus Av. Just like death, right, takes a girl out of the possession of the father, so too, when she becomes the age of 12 and a half, when she becomes Bulgaris, she leaves the rishus of the father. Ma misa leinisrek nerishus labal. Just like by misa, she doesn't fall to the rishus of the husband. So too, she shouldn't go ahead with bagas go to the rishus of the husband. So that can't be the case. Now, when she returns to Bulgaris, she becomes the possession of the husband. Ella Shakicha she Bulgaris. Rather, we're talking about a case of when she's Mugudesh, is when she's a Bulgaris. In such a case, the husband can go ahead and revoke her vows, and her father cannot. So Gemara says, well, why do you need to teach us this in our Mishnah? Right? If that's the chiddush of our Mishnah, right, that a husband who marries a Bulgaris is able to go ahead and revoke her vows. We actually learn that in another Mishnah later on in 3 blots.
She's Bulgarit, her status, she's Bulgarit by her father's house and Millis at the same time.
So, yeah,
right?
Okay, right. Yeah.
So because of that, he cannot,
so
the father cannot.
The father's done. Once she becomes 12 and a half, then she's done, right? Once she becomes 12 and a half, she's living in her father's house. Right. Once she's 12 and a half, you can no longer revoke her vows. So then, once she's Moreses, then she's in the husband's, then he can go ahead. Now, so we actually learned that once, and it wasn't saying the Mishnah later on. It says, right? We're talking about a Bulgaris over there that basically waited 12 months, right? So basically, a woman was, she got to Moreses, she got engaged, betrothed to a man, and says, okay, we're going to go ahead and get married. The time comes to get married and he's not there. He's not ready. So she says, I gave you the time over there. You have to support her. So the Mishnah over there says, since he now is obligated to go ahead and support her, like like the Gemaras we saw in Ksubas, right? So since he's obligated to support her, he also is given the privilege or given the power to go ahead and revoke her vows, to mayfair her nadar. So we already know over there, since he has to support her, even though she's a Bogeres, right? He has to go ahead. He's allowed to go ahead and revoke her vows. So why do you need to teach us that he can revoke vows of a Bogeres in our Mishnah? If we see he can revoke vows of Bogeres in the Mishnah in 3 blots and Gemara Ayin Gimel, or Mishnah Ayin Gimel. So where's this Hagufa Kasha? Wait, first I understand. Amarta Bogeres Shas Shneim Asar Chodesh. Bogeres Lamli Shneim Asar Chodesh. By Bogeres, if it's why do you need 12 months? Bogeres B'Shloshim Yom Sagila, right? The halach is by 12 months to get ready. That's only referring to a Nara. But a Bogeres, the girl who's older, right? She's ready to roll, right? She's ready to get a short engagement. So that's only 30 days. So why are you saying 12 months? He made a stipulation 12 months. If a Bogeres gets engaged, she's not saying, okay, 12 months we'll get married. For now, it's 30 days. So why did the Mishnah over there say 12 months? It should be 30 days. So the question is, okay, fix it. Tani Bogeres u'shishasa yibei chodesh. Either or. No, it's either a case of a Bogeres, he's allowed to go ahead and nullify her vows, or a Nara who was given 12 months to marriage, or a Katana to give to 12 months, then if the time doesn't come, since he has a supporter, he's able to go ahead and nullify her vows. So nevertheless, the Gemara says, Mikol Makom Kasha. Nevertheless, it's a Kasha. So once again, the Kasha is, if we're talking about over here, it's teaching us that the Yafa Koyach betters the position of the husband than the father, and we're talking about a case where he marries a Bogeres, that a husband can go ahead and nullify the vows of a Bogeres. Why do you need our Mishnah to teach us that? We have a Mishnah later on. So why do you have 2 Mishnayos teaching us the same halacha that a husband can go ahead and be mayfair the nadarim of a Bogeres? So Iba is saying hacha dafka. Over here is hacha dafka. Over here it was teaching you the halacha. Bogeres k'tani hasim mishum deboy ifluge Rabbi Eliezer v'Rabbanan. It's actually machlekes over there between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan. So therefore, really over here they teach you the case of Bogeres, that he's required to go ahead, or that since he's allowed to go ahead and revoke her vows. And over there it wants to teach you something separate, i.e. the machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbanan. Or Iboy Sema, Bogeres Dafka. Maybe over there was teaching us all the halachas that by Bogeres, a husband is able to go ahead and revoke his wife's vows. And so why did it say in our case, since in the ratio we want to bring a case of where it was the case of Yafa Koyach, in the case of the father, that he has a better position while she's a Nara, right, to go ahead and revoke her vows. So too, we brought a case of Yafa Koyach Ha'av in the case of a Bogeres, but really the halacha of teaching us this case that can revoke vows is really of the Mishnah on Ayin Gimel. All right, we'll stop here. Everyone should have a wonderful day.